All right, welcome to the AIS Podcast. Today is a solo pod. Sir Nate is out there slinging decks in the greater Tennessee area, so we are going to go one-on-one today. And truthfully, totally off the cuff, but my thought today was, let's talk through some of the issues we have at KHB, because, of course, we have issues, just like every other company has issues. And if I have the issue, you probably have the issue too. So what first came to mind when I was talking to producer Dave about what we could talk about today was just people, because everything boils down to the people you have in your company, the people you work with, your vendors, your subcontractors, the people you're managing, the people that are in control of like the end product to the client, and then ultimately like the client, like those are people too. So I want to talk about some of those things, and I want to talk through how we manage people, how we track people, because there's no way to manage something if it's not measured. So I'm going to take like a reverse osmosis of this to where like the outcome is client satisfaction, profitable projects, growing company. Like let's take those three pillars and let's reverse engineer that and digest how do we get to those outcomes. And the big one is outcomes. So one of the things you should track is all the steps to that outcome. And a lot of the tracking metrics that we started with were called KPIs, key performance indicators. And we're slowly shifting from a KPI company, which is inherently lagging, to an OKR company, which is objectives and key results. You can also do OKOs, objectives and key outcomes. However you want to phrase your acronyms, they all do relatively the same thing. And so what I want to share, this is going to be a very YouTube-heavy type podcast today. So if you don't subscribe to us on YouTube, go there, check it out, watch this video on YouTube, because we're going to be going through some of the actual documents, SOPs, and OKRs that we track here at KHB. So first things first, I want to go through what success looks like in operation. And I look back at, this is all a big game, right? Like business is a game. The scoreboard is essentially our P&L. That's the only thing we really have to keep score. Sure, we could have 5-star reviews. That's another way to have a scoreboard, but you can have 100 5-star reviews and you are not profitable on those jobs and you're not going to be in business. So let's look at the P&L as like the scoreboard for your business. And any game needs a set of rules. If we're not playing by a set of rules, everyone's just really going out there and relying on their highest level of training, which if you don't have a rule book, you probably haven't trained the things that you want your team to do to get the outcomes of profitable projects, happy clients, and a growing company. So what we did at KHB is we actually built a rule book with a legend of what these acronyms and everything means, and then a role-by-role rule book for each position in direct management on our jobs. And I think this is, it's been somewhat of a game changer because it breeds autonomy. It lets people have agency over their decisions. It gives them a clear rules of what they can and cannot do, what they can handle, what they need to escalate. And so let's hop in to our operations rule book. And that is going to be right here. Okay, why am I still on the screen? Get out of here. Okay, so this is our rule book. We have a nice little tab section over here. The first thing is all of us should be speaking the same language. And so if I put up, if I say I want something smart, everyone in the room should know that that means specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. And that's how we ask questions. That's how we set deliverables. They need to be smart. Forecasting, Buildertrend, our main software. Hopefully everyone knows that. G Suite, pretty much our whole company is a Google-driven tech stack. So we should be familiar with G Suite. Decision authority, escalation path, delegation, manpower, like just a key breakdown of what these terms mean. And then an overview. So this playbook guides our site supers, our PMs, and our OM for managing multiple projects. Our expectation at KHB is a superintendent can manage 4 to 6 projects. And then the PM is the direct manager and receives direct reports from those superintendents. And then the operations manager oversees both of our markets and all projects, all PMs, all superintendents. So this has key practices. It talks about proactiveness, like having foresight in your scheduling and reviewing proposals and plan sets. It gives you clear decision purchasing authority, focused delegation to sales and design. And that's the other thing, too, with one of the issues we've been having that we're fixing is our site superintendents feel like they're in their own little silo. And decisions should not be made in silos. In any business, a decision should not be made in a hard silo. There should be, we used to call it the 3 C's. It was call it out, collaborate, and clarify. So call out that problem, call out the bullshit. Is that what you used to say? Collaborate with everyone around you. At KHB and our sister companies, there's close to 50 people that you can collaborate with that probably have a solution. And then clarify, like get very clear on the problem. And so the 3 C's is kind of our framework for identifying these problems. And this helps. So we start with the superintendent, site superintendent. And another framework that we like to use, more of a preference, is all of our client-facing problems should be solved as close to the client as possible. And that does come down to our superintendents. They are the closest problem solver to our clients. And so most of the problems that happen should be solved as close to the client as possible with the superintendent. So our superintendents, they are our lead on-site execution. They have foresight. They anticipate with materials, tools, manpower needs. They review all of the construction documents, our proposals, schedules, approved plan sets. They delegate supportive tasks. They have a VA. We have an admin that does data entry and communications and drafts emails and all that for them. They also have access to our sales and design teams, and they oversee 4 to 6 projects in their market. Now, their deliverables. Schedule and execution. Once again, these are all client-facing. Like the superintendent is you can call him the chief customer experience officer, if you will. We need to make sure that the schedule and our execution of scope of work stays on our baseline. They plan upcoming phases. They confirm subcontractors and resources on the day-to-day capacity. Safety is huge for us. We don't want anyone chopping fingers off in driveways on table saws. That is a huge thing for us. Client communication, our client needs to be informed. Our daily reports that the superintendents give directly to the project managers are transparent. The client sees that daily report, the good and the bad. Photos, weekly reviews. So KPI summary for the PM to review with that superintendent. And their KPIs and their performance-based comp is based off of baseline schedule, client satisfaction, and project budgets. Are we meeting our budgets or being more conservative on our budgets, saving money to go to our bottom line? Is our client happy? Are we meeting schedule? Those are the 3 things we care about. Decision authority. So this was a big one because all of our superintendents have company cards, and some superintendents I feel are very resourceful. They're going back to the shop. They're checking for materials there before they go to Home Depot or before they call that vendor. Some guys just go straight to the shop. They have that urgency to just go, or straight to the store and just go buy what they need. So we had to put some parameters in place. And once again, if we're not playing by the rules, or if people don't know the rules, you can't be upset as a leader to your team if you haven't made it very clear what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And that should be like the keynote is everyone's flying blind if they don't know the rules. So our superintendents have an up to $500 authority to purchase materials or a client gift potentially, maybe something that smooths over a subcontractor not showing up, like whatever that looks like, $500 after they do an inventory check. So that inventory check, we have group Slack for all of our projects, posting in the Slack, hey, I need 18D nails. I need a whole box of them. Is anyone at the Pleasanton shop? Is anyone at the Ripon shop? Can everyone check to see if we have these nails before I go to Home Depot? And ideally, he knows he needs nails like 5 days before framing comes up, and he can check if we have nails. Or at the safety meeting at the shop, he could check if there's nails at the shop. So once again, we want to be proactive. But let's say he couldn't find anything. He sends out that chat, and then he just goes to the store and gets it. What designates escalation? So any material delays threatening the critical path, any unclear items of scope of work, any client requested change orders that have an impact to the cost and schedule, any unforeseen conditions affecting the budget or schedule, or any serious client complaints get direct straight to the project manager. That is a non-negotiable. Our superintendent's first priority is schedule and baseline. They need to be on site managing that project, putting their bags on, helping fulfill the work. They should not be dragged down with paperwork. Send that to the PM, let the PM handle the client and communicate with that client and make sure everything gets taken care of. Now, purchase authority throughout, and we'll get more into the PM and operations manager. After $500, it requires PM approval. The superintendent can still purchase that item. He just has to make a phone call. He has to call his PM and say, hey, XYZ is needed, something broke, we need a rental, we need this, we need that, calls the PM. After $1,000, the PM coordinates with the operations manager. And ideally, no purchases over $500 are happening because we batch order all of our materials, we schedule all of our equipment well before the job starts. So if there's a payment over $500, that needs to be flagged, and then that needs to be processed out in our pre-construction. Now, delegation. This goes through everyone he has at his disposal as a superintendent to make sure he can be successful on his project. Data entry and reminders go straight to the VA. They retain decision and scheduling authority. Design team. We have in-house drafters, in-house designers, drafting RFIs and technical questions using that SMART framework. So be specific about that problem, make it measurable. So whether that's through our Google Chats, whether that's through our Builder Trend, make sure that we can measure that communication. Make sure it's attainable, like you're sending it to the right department. If it's an engineering question, the interior designer is going to do the same thing that you could do yourself. Email the engineer, right? Relevant, make sure it's about the project that you're communicating with, and then time-bound. Give them a deadline on when you need that communication back. Now to the sales team. Clarifying contract items, proposal details, gathering client decisions, selections, changes. Guidelines, specify the task deliverable deadline when delegating, delegate supportive tasks. So once again, we want our superintendents on the job site working towards the critical path, not doing paperwork. So delegate. They have authority to delegate to design, sales, VA, ops manager, PM, anyone they need to delegate to. And then all the way down to manpower allocation. Our superintendents can reassign crews with certain parameters. So they cannot pull team members off another job to come to their project because they want to hang a second cabinet and then leave that other job abandoned. We need to have crew members at every single project, every single day, no dead days allowed, unless there is a subcontractor that is doing their scope of work and we're still managing that subcontractor, but we don't have any KHB field labor there. That is acceptable. Engaging subcontractors, our superintendents, once again, staying on budget is a big part. If we get some out of left field change order from a subcontractor and it's going to turn into a dispute, they have autonomy to go find other subcontractors, give them the budget for the scope of work, and pull that contract from that sub. Their biggest thing, aside from client experience, schedule adherence, is budget, maintaining that budget. They need to look at our proposal, look at our budget and our WIP reporting and say, I got $5,000 for paint. I need to go find a painter for $5,000, ideally that we worked with before and we have a rapport with. Escalation path. Ideally, the superintendent is recognizing issues early on, and then he's escalating those issues to the PM, design, sales, ops manager via our chats, Builder Trend messaging, with potential impacts, options that he sees. But as soon as he gets that communication off of his chest, that is not his pig, not his farm. That is on the PM, designer, salesperson, whoever that SMART RFI was sent to make sure it gets taken care of and report back in the timeline that the superintendent needs communication back. Same thing now with client issues, same thing now with tracking decisions. All of that is communicated and handed off. So the superintendent is like playing a big game of hot potato. And in any company, this could be your foreman, this could be a field lead, this could be superintendent, whatever the title is. They're just a big hot potato player. They get a bunch of hot potatoes thrown at them every single day. This happened. This sub didn't show up. This person called in sick. I don't know where this material is. It might be in our shop. It might not have been delivered yet. It might have been back ordered. I don't know. He gets all these hot potatoes, and he has to dish these hot potatoes out, ideally before 10 a.m. in the morning, to everyone that needs to know about this hot potato, and then they got to make the fries. They got to take that potato and fix it. So the superintendent has a huge role in the company, and between 4 to 6 projects per superintendent. Right now we run 15 to 20 projects. That's a lot of superintendents throwing a lot of hot potatoes back at the office staff because every single day in construction, it's not if something happens that wasn't planned, it's when something happens that wasn't a plan. And that information is huge. And that communication skill in a superintendent is huge. Now, the KPIs we talked about, the metrics. Now, the KPIs, these are actual numbers, right? Like when we sell a project, it has a baseline schedule, amount of working days. All those working days have operating costs associated with it. And any day we go over our baseline schedule, I allocate that as we just lost X amount of operating dollars and X amount of opportunity costs because we could have been on another project making that money and we just burnt it on this project that we didn't have it in the budget to burn. So the baseline schedule is literally like a +1, -1, +2, -2 type metric that we look through weekly. Safety incidents, that's a pretty easy one. Did anyone claim workers' comp? Anyone go to the hospital? What happened? Quality issues, how much warranty work do we have? How many callbacks do we have for paint touch-ups? And then forecasting accuracy. Was our estimating department accurate? Like we are reconciling our financials weekly and then going back and saying, hey, estimating department, you guys bid out for X amount of 2x6 on this many lineal feet of exterior wall. We actually needed X because you didn't count for double top plates. That's true story, happens. So those types of feedback loops have to happen weekly too. And that comes in the weekly goal setting and review discussions. Once again, whatever gets measured gets managed, and the people that we have on our teams have ideal outcomes. And we're playing this game of business, right? And it all boils down to the P&L as a scoreboard. But if we're not weekly checking in with our team and letting them know what they're accountable for and holding them accountable and giving them praise and giving them training and education and every opportunity to succeed, you're flying blind. And it's not, once again, a matter of if, it's when you fail, because you're going to fail. And you need to have a plan in place. So proactive behaviors for our superintendents. They need to be reviewing the full proposal that was sold, schedules, approved plan sets, bids, materials from vendors. They're attending pre-site walks, our pre-construction meeting, identifying scope gaps, drafting RFIs, anticipating tool maintenance as well. If we have a skid steer that's down because it never got the oil changed in the past, 2 years, like that needs to be brought up. And then communicating next phase needs early on in our project management software. So here's like a daily routine and then some common scenarios that we've seen. In the morning, our super should be checking their schedules, looking at pending items, emailing the project manager critical forecasts, so like on-site conditions, what's going on. Daily, they should be doing a tailgate talk, updating their project management software, and then handling urgent issues via chat. And then in the afternoon, review the next day needs. Weekly, check out the forecast with the PM, analyze our data, our budgets, everything we're at, our daily logs, daily reports. And then the common scenarios that we see, material delays, especially when clients try to order their own materials, there's always a delay. We're always researching alternatives. Scope gaps, once again, client provided plans often have big scope gaps from what the client thought they were getting, what their drafter or architect actually drew. So that's a big thing. Client supplied missing, crew no-shows. We've had that happen before. What do you do? And that's where you have the autonomy to pull people from other projects because we don't allow dead days. That needs to happen. And then safety incidents. So those are things that have happened in the past, and here's how we resolve them. Now, next, the project manager. And I use the analogy of, like you think of the big Clydesdale Budweiser horses. The superintendents have their blinders on. They look like the next day, right? They're worried about today, tomorrow, this week. The project manager is worried about this week, this month, this quarter, next project. The operations manager is worried about this quarter, this year, 3-year plan, like really driving the mission of the company, and then making sure that he can jump down to that, day-to-day operational capacity that he needs to have, but then step back and have that 30,000-foot view of how everything lines up in our mission moving forward 1, 3, 5, 10 years. So with the project manager, they do have a little bit more foresight. They get jobs that go through our QA/QC process 2 to 4 weeks before start. They're walking that job. And they're also identifying materials, tool, manpower needs. So by the time it gets to superintendent, the PM's already done what they should have done as a superintendent and gave them another filter of accuracy before that job starts. Budget, profit. The PM for us is basically a bookkeeper with a tool belt. They are into the numbers. They are monitoring the budgets, the forecasts, the costs, compile cost data from the builder trend entries, the receipt allocations. They should be a book nerd about how profitable is this project. And yes, their income is tied project per project to the profit. Client relationships, updates, builder trend email, making sure our client's informed. Schedule management. This is obviously across multiple projects. PM should be able to run up to 10 projects. They have 4 to 6 here. It should be up to 10, in my opinion. 4 to 6, I think, is a little light. But they should be managing all of their schedules, all their subcontractors, all their orders, and really being the puppet master of those critical path schedules. And then weekly GSRs, compiling their KPIs and going to the operations manager and having his direct report every single week. And you see how everyone has their little accountability chain. That superintendent is accountable to the project manager in that project. The project manager is accountable to the ops manager. And then the ops manager is accountable to the general manager. So there's 4 direct reports in a silo per project, per department. So sales and design has the same thing. Finance has the same thing. Marketing has the same thing. And then you're running a company. Magic. Now, design authority. PMs up to $1,000 after inventory check. Over $1,000 escalate to the operations manager, and that's $1,000 to $5,000. So any major budget variances, significant schedule risk, client change orders. And that's the thing. If there's any clients that listen to this, the change you request on your project doesn't just affect your project. If we're running 15 other jobs and you throw a 2-week change order in there, that is now 15 other clients that potentially have an impact to their schedule. And there's operating costs that we're going to have to account for to fulfill that 2-week change order on your job. So you look at it and you're like, well, I went to Home Depot. The vanity is only $500 and this is only $200. Like this change order should only be $5,000. Well, you're not accounting for the X amount of operating costs for that 10 working days and the admin costs and rescheduling fees for all the other clients and all the resource allocation and manipulation that we have to do internally to make sure that we can do that change order. So just word to the wise for client change orders. When they see the cost, they often get mad. And it's like, well, you're the one throwing a 2-week wrench into this thing and messing up 15 other people's projects too. We want to do the change order for you, but it does come at a premium because there are usually 5 to 7 internal members that are involved in a major change order, from scheduling, client communication, logistics, allocating that material, internal scope of works being drafted and revised, margins being checked by accounting and operations management. Like there's a bunch that goes into those large change orders. So have some grace. Now, purchasing authority. We talked about that. Anything above that $5,000 needs to go to the ops manager, GM, CEO, with a detailed analysis and compiled data of why. Why did that happen? That $5,000 better be on a change order and be above the line. If that's $5,000 we're eating as a company because someone missed it, sirens go off. That's very bad. And it has happened. That's why I put it here. It has happened before where someone made a mistake. Mistakes happen. But if that happens more than once, now we're just being negligent. Delegation guidelines, same as superintendent. He has a full design team, the full sales team, the operations manager, everyone that's touched that project, he has at his disposal for the life of that project. Our design team and sales team do not sell the job, design the job, and walk away. Like everyone is a part of our reputation at this company, and we're all working towards a common goal. So everyone is equally accountable to the outcomes of these jobs. Escalation path, very similar as superintendents. Communication protocols, very similar to superintendents. And then KPIs and feedback, very similar to superintendents. So it is a very, our compensation for performance-based comp is very aligned. If the superintendent wins, the project management wins, the ops manager wins. If the ops manager wins, the PM wins, the super wins. If the PM wins, the ops manager and the superintendent win. So basically, if everyone's doing their job, everyone wins. And that's what we want. And it's so aligned that no one can really point a finger and say, hey, PM, you didn't schedule this. Well, superintendent, you were on site every single day and you knew this was going to come up. Why didn't you bring that up in your GSR? So everyone's equally accountable to the outcomes. Now, proactive materials, the project manager should be ordering all the large build and finish materials well in advance. Ideally, we're putting deposits and scheduling deliveries before the job even starts. He should be drafting RFIs to estimating, design, engineering well before, especially things that like might get through the city planning department, but internally we're like, that's going to be kind of messed up to frame that, or hey, how are we going to drop this steel beam over this 2-story home into the single story to add a second story on that part of the home? It's happened. Those types of RFIs need to happen early. So when we get to, erecting that steel and getting the welder and all that done, we have a clear plan of attack well before the day of it happening. Aligning subcontractor schedules, post-mortem, kind of morbid, but after that phase is dead, reviewing all of the phases of that construction. And then they have autonomy to adjust SOPs as well. Now, SOPs, that's another thing when we talk about rules and playbooks. I want to be more of like a football coach than a CEO. I don't really care necessarily if someone follows steps 1 through 10 in order on a SOP. All I care about is the end result, the objective, right? So if they go step 1, 2, then step 5, 6, then 3, 4, and they get the same outcome and it's faster, great. That's awesome. Like my SOPs are not the Bible. You don't have to follow it, by law. Whatever gets to the ideal outcome and everyone wins, that's the process. And we give our people agency to create, craft, and review those processes to get to our ideal outcomes as efficiently as possible. Now, routines for a PM, very similar. Review our project management updates, email summaries to different departments if need be. Check chat for urgent items for the ad hocs that come through from the superintendent, updating our forecasts and our budgets, sending client updates, GSR prep, meetings, logging outcomes of projects and construction phases, and then monthly reviewing our portfolio of work, analyzing the data, looking for trends on where are we effective. And we do this by phasing our construction. And so phase 1 might be site work, foundation through frame. And then phase 2 will be our MEPs through drywall finishing. And then phase 3 will be, let's say flooring all the way through finish. So cabinets, appliances, tile, waterproofing, all that. In those phases, where's our efficiency? Like, is it what we do in-house? We're super efficient and cost effective, but what we're subbing out, we're having issues with getting subs on site, or vice versa. Are our subs killing it because they can throw a bunch of manpower at this trade and get it finished, where we have to flex our schedule and we're having a little bit of a delay coming back on site. So just analyzing the data that's given. That's what's so cool about construction is every single day, every single phase of construction, there is a direct feedback loop. If something went right or wrong. It's not like developing a product over 3-6 months and then going to market and kind of crossing your fingers that the market loves what you built. You know exactly how that client feels that day because we're talking to them. We know if our work is quality because we did it ourselves. We have reports on it. And so that feedback loop is extremely valuable. Common scenarios, client scope changes. We need to draft that impact summary to the team. One, that impact summary from the project manager is going to equip our superintendent with aligned vocabulary and aligned outcome to then regurgitate the same message to that client. And this is where historically we have seen communication break down. It's when the superintendent has their own line of thinking about a certain situation and they speak out of pocket. The project manager has their own line of thinking and they're the ones giving the client update later that day or later that week. And those two things clash. So it's like most of our issues that we've had internally haven't been with lack of communication. It's been with communication that's conflicting. And that's one of the big takeaways here too, is having impact summary that everyone is aligned on and they understand the implications. They understand the ideal outcome of this change order, the cost impacts, the schedule impacts. That's very, very, very valuable. And it seems like a small thing, but when you have more people in your chain of command and in your communication chain to that client, there's more opportunity for failure. So that's, once again, we want to solve problems as close to the client with our superintendents. And then when we do have a big change order or we have a big alignment that we need to be on the same page with, that is coming top down and we're holding communication until we all have a consistent message. Other than that, reviewing cost schedule, sending change order proposals, information slips, enhancing our pre-planning checklist. Essentially, we try to do this in design in our architecture department, where if we have a county comment or a city comment that comes back more than once in that same county or city, it just goes on our standard set of plans. We're just going to address it. I have a master checklist that's probably like 6 pages long that you would think you'd be able to get a permit first round on a plan check, but good luck. Every city, every county, that's a whole other podcast. But basically, getting ahead of things and making checklists so next time we don't make this mistake twice. Tracking our tasks and to-do lists, schedule slips, they will happen. Now, once again, our project managers have the autonomy to really be the puppet master of our schedule. So if we have a 2-day slip and we're behind baseline on drywall, for example, they need to be looking 4, 6, 8 weeks down the road on how can we schedule this to gain ideally 3 days. How do we get ahead of schedule down the road? So to do that, analyze the root cause of that slip and then propose mitigations. Inform the operations manager. Ask for help. One of our core values here is humility. None of us know everything. We don't act like we do. Right? Raise your hand. You got about 50 other people that can help you out. So raise your hand, ask for help. And that operations manager and that project manager can come together and look at their critical path, look at their baseline and say, okay, well, we got, 8 more weeks till COC. We can manipulate paint. We can bring in a secondary sub here. We might eat 3,000 here, but then if we do our finish install in-house and we have the labor to do it, we'll save that in our operating costs because we're not paying for that subcontractor's overhead too. So once again, making decisions, being proactive. Quality issues. That's one thing that makes my skin crawl if I see bad quality on one of my jobs. And I go to our job sites fairly often. I'm taking photos. I'm shooting. I try not to breathe down our guys' neck. I'm sending them to the ops manager and trying to get a resolution plan in place. I'm communicating like what is not okay. Once again, our people need that feedback loop because we might have a new hire that's been doing it his way for 10, 15 years on finish carpentry, but I go there and check his wainscoting and I see that he is butting his joints and not coping or mitering. And I'm just like, hey, that's not how we do things here. That is not okay. Like our quality standard is this. That's the bar. We need to exceed that every time. Now, operations management. This is the jefe. The jefe. Role summary, all projects. He is operational oversight over everything, KHB. And in oftentimes some of our other sister business units, like our tile and stone, our flooring, hopefully soon to be painting. He has oversight on all of those, on KHB projects specifically. So procurement, resource allocation, financial oversight, process improvement, cross-project coordination. Oh, excuse me. All of those big 5 deliverables describe his day-to-day. So he does have pretty high autonomy. Any purchase under $10,000, he doesn't have to ask anyone. He has the autonomy and the trust to go make that purchase. Anything over $10,000, CEO, GM approval, whether that's me or soon to be GM, that would be that sign off there. Any large budget adjustments, like if he's playing And I think of this as like Rummy Cube. Like when you have your 13 tiles and there's a bunch of tiles on the board and you're like, okay, there's 1 through 3 there in black. There's 5, 6, 7 over here in red. This person has orange. And I'm going to take this tile, this tile, this tile, this tile, this tile. I'm going to replace them with this tile, this tile, this tile, this tile. And then I'm going to lay my tiles. And then I get 30 and I can go down on the board, right? Like the OM should be the Rummy Cube master, right? He should be the one saying, we can pull resources from this job over here and allocate those over to this job over here, then pull from here. And then in-house, we can supplement these projects with X, Y, and Z resources. We save X amount of money. We meet schedules on all projects or exceed our baseline schedule. And we communicate this effectively with clients on a need-to-know basis. So they're not panicked that we're pulling resources around, because that's just the reality of construction. So he is the critical thinker. He is a mastermind of operations and efficiency and logistics. And he really does have a lot of authority. So purchase authority, forecast driven. So this is based off the budgets that come to us from estimation. He should be reviewing those budgets, sending out, cross-referencing with vendors to double check and make sure that we can allocate all these materials at the budgets that we're given. And he does that in the QA/QC process. So before the job even sells, he is looking at the budgets, looking at the scope of work, looking at the sub bids, the vendor bids, and making sure that everything aligns. Now, delegation, very similar. He has everyone at his disposal, including the GM, CEO, anyone he needs to be successful on his projects. He just has to raise his hand and ask. Communication protocols, very similar. We use Buildertrend for our project management, G Suite for all of our internal comms, KPIs and feedbacks, basically from bottom up. Like when I have my one-on-ones with our OM, it's how's the superintendents doing? People issues, process issues, money issues, schedule issues, client issues. How's our PM doing? Same criteria. Then how are you doing? How are your KPIs doing? So he is fully responsible and fully accountable to everyone's performance under him. Big shoes to fill there. Now, proactive behaviors, he's reviewing the sales as well. So he's working with the sales and design team. He actually sits in that all-hands sales meeting, and he's looking at the pipeline 4 or 6 weeks ahead. He's ensuring that he's ready, that his operational team is ready for these jobs getting sold. He has a big hand in what comes through design and sales. We actually, as a sales and design team, we ask for permission to sell this job to make sure that operations is on board and is okay with being fully accountable and fully responsible for this project getting done at the scope of work that's been written, at the plan set that's been drafted, and at the language in our contract. So decision matrix, it's pretty typical stuff, but decision type, superintendent, PM, OM, who does what on a cross-role guidelines. Escalation timelines. Once again, if you noticed here, this whole document is built in a SMART framework. So each role is very specific. It's all measurable. It should be attainable for the skill set we hired in the role that we hired for. It's very relevant. And timelines. This is the last part here. There's immediate, there's same shift into day, and then there's 24, 48 hour. Immediate escalations and communications need to be for safety incidents, critical material and tool delays, crew no-shows, and just general emergencies. Same day, same shift, scope clarifications, budget variance, quality issues. And then 24 to 48 hour, follow-ups on procurement, on critical path schedule variances. Good example of that is we're building a home addition. As soon as we are working on getting weather tight, we're often working on interiors as well. And so we might be drywall might be going up while the stucco's curing outside, and then our exterior paint pushes our schedule 3 days. Well, that's not going to push my critical path, right? The paint could happen on the 4th day. We're still inside working on the critical path of completion. So those aren't critical schedule variances, but those things do happen, and they need to be notified 24, 48 hours. And then client feedback actions. And the immediate would be emergency, like client has a total fit or something happens and we have to immediately address this situation. The 24 to 48 hour would be like a large change order. We would set that expectation with the client. Hey, within 24, 48 hours, our team's going to get together. We're going to review this. You'll have feedback within that time frame. And then weekly reviews. So Wednesday, Thursday, we should be crafting that summary of the week for that client. It's usually about a 1 to 2 day process. Communication, same thing. Templates, checklists. We have pre-con forecast checklists. We have daily site condition checklists. We have GSR templates. We have change order templates, client update templates, all that good stuff for them to be successful. And then our dashboards. We use Monday.com and Buildertrend for all of our dashboards, all the way down to the bottom. So anyways, kind of a rant. This is a super valuable document. And if you're a contractor, I'm sure you've had issues with alignment. And the whole goal of this is to align our teams. We need our teams speaking the same language, rowing the boat in the same direction, and understanding who does what and when they do it. So I'm going to leave it at that. That was about 39 minutes of me yelling at you. Oh, crimes in construction. Let's do that. I forgot about crimes in construction. Give me 1 minute. Let's pop this up. There were some more robberies that I want to talk about. So if you will, if you're watching on YouTube, pop a comment in the chat. And if you do so, I will send you that whole document, and I'll even hop on a call with you and help you build one out for your company. Because once again, super valuable. And I love being a sounding board for other contractors trying to process and systemize their company. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Okay. This week on Crimes in Construction, let me share my screen real quick. We have a crane that was hijacked in Louisiana. You read that right. A crane, which is wild, just wild. So this man abandoned his truck, crossed the highway, and entered this crane inside of an ongoing work zone. Hilarious. Here's the picture of it. That's a no joke crane too. That's a legit crane. That's not like a little truss crane on the back of a truck. That's a full-fledged freaking crane. This was on Interstate 90 in Louisiana. Kind of the keynote to this, 37-year-old Louisiana man who is trying to take the belt from the Florida man has been arrested after he hijacked the construction crane on the highway. His name is Matthew Vincent. He faces multiple charges, 5 counts of hit and run driving. Authorities said he operated a crane and caused multiple crashes on Interstate 10. The car crashes caused 2 injuries, major damage to the crane itself, and significant property damage, and prolonged closure of the interstate. So let's see, what happened to this dude? It's at 5:30 a.m. What else happened? He has to be going to prison, right? No way. His bond was set at $3,500. Alleged. Yeah, he allegedly stole the crane. So this went down 5:30 a.m. He wasn't booked till 7:30 at night. So if that tells you anything about how long his little crane hijacking went on. Yeah, $3,500 bond. That's crazy. Because he could have killed someone with the crane. Oh, here we go. So he's getting with burglary. Simple burglary is the count. Aggravated obstruction of a highway, criminal mischief, pedestrian on the interstate, and then 2 counts of negligent injuring and 5 counts of hit and run driving. All for $3,500 bond. All right. Louisiana. If you're going to do crime, do it there, because in California, actually, they might just let you out in California, huh? They don't care anymore over here. That's true. Yeah. Huh. Well, anyways, that does it for the AIS podcast today. Like, share, subscribe, comment, give it to a contractor friend. I think this would be very valuable for a contractor starting out to kind of think ahead when he's building his team out, who's going to do what. I wish I had this when I started, because it probably would have helped clarity on hiring a lot more. So yeah, thank you. Stay tuned for next episode.